Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Rafael Miranda, and I'm going to be presenting about the Shiny Base app to automate the construction of cost comparison tables. Um, CDA-AMC is Canada's drug agency, which is a pan-Canadian organization that is funded by the federal and provincial ministries of health and receives funds from the pharmaceutical industry for specific projects. But the project that I'm presenting today didn't receive any funding from other organizations. So part of the mandate of CDA-AMC is to make recommendations for reimbursement of drugs by the public health systems in Canada, which include all provinces and territories except for Quebec. Most often, this process is initiated by manufacturers of new drugs who submit a dossier containing the clinical evidence and economic assessments of their drugs. CDA-AMC also conducts studies for drugs later in their life cycle at the request of the public drug plans, which is called a non-sponsored review. CDA-AMC staff writes the reports of these reviews, which are presented to expert committees, and the expert committees make a recommendation to reimburse or not the drug for that specific indication or population. And there are currently 3 expert committees for drug reimbursement at CDA-AMC: BERC for sponsored drugs in oncology, CDAC for sponsored drugs in all other therapeutic areas, and FMAC for non-sponsored reviews in any therapeutic areas. The economic section of the reimbursement review will have at least an assessment of the drug acquisition cost, but in most cases of the sponsor reviews, it will also include an assessment of the value of the drug with a cost effectiveness analysis, its affordability to the drug plans with a budget impact analysis, and cost tables are built and included in all the reimbursement review reports and inform all these elements of the economic review. These cost tables present the drug acquisition costs of the drug under review and all the other comparators for the same indication. And as you can imagine, there's a wide variation in their sizes and complexity. For example, they can be very simple if you have few comparators and if the drugs are pills or tablets, but they can also be much more complex when we have many regimens with multiple drugs each, which can have variable dosage by patient's characteristics or by regimen cycle. The calculations used in these cost tables are not complex. In most cases, they're a sequence of arithmetic calculations, but because there are so many steps between the presentation of a drug to its cycle-specific cost, there are also many opportunities for errors and variability. At CDA-AMC, we try to mitigate this by having internal templates, but only some of the calculations can be automated in Excel, so in most cases, there must be done some adaptation or updates to these templates. And since we're always building these cost tables and a lot of information from the drugs can be used in many reviews, we noticed that automation can save a lot of time that we spend on the construction and validation of these cost tables. And it would also avoid unnecessary duplication of work, increase consistency between all the projects, and minimize the risk of human errors. Our objective here was to build an app that can be used for most of the reviews, or at least automate most of the calculations in the more complex cases. This is an example of a cost table from a reimbursement review. You can see that we have a lot of data that populates this table. For example, the generic and brand name of the drugs, all their available presentations in Canada, a description of their dosing schedule, the price of each version of the drug, their cost per day, and also their standardized cycle, which is usually 20 days for oncology or 1 year for other drugs. Some of these cells have multiple rows, some of them have numeric values, and other have text. Some tables will be short and simple, like 2 or 3 rows only, but others may fill 2 or 3 pages of the report. And the cost table tool is a Shine-based app that will be used by the health economics team at CDA-AMC and will automate most of the building and validating tasks. We design an app that has multiple steps, starting with patient and regimen assumptions using the calculations. For example, average age, weight, or body surface area, the standardized cycle length, and consideration of wastage. And then the user will add all the regimens that will be included in the table. In the next step, the user will select all the drugs that are part of the regimens from an existing database or add new drugs to the database. And then the user will review all the information about all the available versions of the drugs and will update the information necessary, such as the price. If In sequence, then the user will add the dose information needed for the calculations. For example, if dose is fixed or based on weight, the frequency of the administration, and length of the drug administration cycle. And with all information needed, the app will calculate the cost per day in standardized cycle, and all the results will be exported in an Excel spreadsheet. The main inputs for the cost tables will be added by the users of the app, which will populate two databases that can be used in future projects. The first is a drug database with all the information for each version of the drug currently marketed in Canada, including its name, manufacturer, strength, concentration, form, and prices. And then a second database with information by regimen will have the indication of the drugs included in each regimen and the dosing schedule. And without the necessary information, the app will calculate the dose of the drug needed per administration, and an algorithm will choose a combination of all the available versions of the drug that minimize the cost per administration. And the output of the tool will be an Excel spreadsheet that has all the assumptions and the input data used in the calculations, which can be validated by another person. This spreadsheet will also have a separate tab with the same structure as the table in the report, which can be copied and pasted directly. I'll do a quick demo of the tool now. Uh, so this is the app here. I'll just start adjusting the defaults here for 6 kilograms and 1.85 square meters. And we just, for this example, just have one regimen here. And we will use rituximab. And then prednisone. And here the user can review all the versions that are in the database already and can add a new version or can update, for example, like the cost here if needed. Uh, then the next step is this. So, for example, rituximab. Let's use like 375 milligrams per square meter on a day one of a 21-day cycle. And then this will be the description. And dosing source cancer care Ontario. And prednisone is an oral drug, so the dosage would be fixed 100 milligrams daily. Um, and then this will be the description, same dosing source. And here we'll have the options to like adjust the number of cycles or if any drugs are specific to each cycle. But we're not doing this now. And then here we do the calculations and we will have all the data here and then we can export the results. I have one here that I open. So then the output will be this spreadsheet here where we have the defaults that we use in the calculations and then like all the other intermediate calculations until we got to the final cost per cycle of each drug. And here we would add the cost of all the drugs for the drugs in the regimen. And the last tab here will have the kind of exact same version that we would need to just copy and paste into our reports. And so this is how the tool works. Uh, so this app is a part of a larger initiative at the health economics team, CDA-AMC, that is trying to increase the efficiency of internal processes, decreasing the time spent with calculations, and also increasing consistency. These tables are not the most complex tasks of our work, but because they are in every review, automation can have a significant impact on the team. And the use of AI for coding was also a great facilitator in the development of the tool, as most of our time is spent on reimbursement reviews, and the time we have to work on projects like this is limited. So this allowed us to spend most of our time in the planning and testing of the tool. And even with the use of AI, we still had a lot of challenges. For example, thinking about the structure of the databases, how they connect with each other, as well as how we'll be able to update the information in these databases while still maintaining consistency across projects and quality control. Although ideally we have a solution that could be used for all projects, we know already that it won't be possible. So we're still trying to figure out all the features we want to include in the tool so that we have something that is flexible, but still not very complicated. And that can be used for most of the projects. Some of these features include doses of the same drug in a regimen that can vary by cycle, complex regimens where some drugs are administered only on specific cycles, or less common drug presentations like inhaler or topical creams. And that's it. Thank you. Happy to take questions now.
Thank you very much, Rafael. Um, just a question, there was you connected to a database. I think it was one of the second or third screen. Would you be able to share what that database was or any more about the connection there?
So we have one, it's just a CVS CSV file. Uh, we have that has the information for each drug and all. So basically, each row is a version of the drug, like by milligrams, for example. And the other database will have the information that we added for the regimen because the dose of each drug may vary by regimen, right? Uh, and so that's why we will need these two different databases, and then the user will be able, once we already have that data used in another project, it will be kind of, you have the option to just load that or update that if needed.
Yeah, a very, very nice tool. Do you see it as something that the CDA will use internally or with other HTAs or manufacturers making submissions that they will enter the
Yeah, so
data?
the or like the our plan use for now is for this to be internal to our team. Um, but what was interesting is that we have done other work about cost tables, and this year, for example, at the CDA symposium, we heard that there is interest from uh, like even like private insurers and a lot like manufacturers too, and use these so that they could like do their own calculations, just changing the price, for example. Uh, because for now we are structuring it for our reports. We'll be kind of internal, but we don't. I mean, I think we will be open, to expand it after we have at least like tested it internally and see how this could be used
Right.
externally too.
Yeah, I see. I think we have one question from the chat from Ollie Popel. Very interesting tool. Have you considered further additions to automate the pasting from the CSV into the Word report? Could it be possible with an API or named ranges and bookmarks in Word?
It definitely would be possible because we have another tool in our team that is already doing that. But
Okay,
because yeah, so we know that it can work even in R, the other two like export, for example, like tables, figures, uh, that also helped us, is helping us a lot. This is something we just kind of launched internally. But this is something that I would still add later, I think for now, because there's still other things that we're trying to make sure kind of works and think about the features. If For now, I think this solution would work well because it would really just be, as long as it still has the same order of the columns and the rows, it would be a simple copying pasting. Uh, but then it would be something that that we would like to also add later to have exported the table in Word already.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Thank you. Um, any other questions from the floor? Or I don't know what the virtual equivalent of a floor is. Um, maybe just one more question, if I may. The Excel spreadsheet, it looked like it was the flat results. It was the numbers. It didn't have formulas in it. Some of the other talks I know have been producing spreadsheets with functions and formulas in them. Is that an area that you're interested in developing, or it works for your purpose and you're happy with it?
Yeah, no, that's actually something that I thought about too, and would be kind of even better to have because then, for example, if we export that, we got that Excel spreadsheet, and then we could, so for example, like CPA here in Canada is the organization that does negotiations. So, for example, if we have the formulas there and they could just change the individual prices to confidential prices, then they could get the same results. Um, so this is something that I'm planning to add to it too. I think it would
Very
help.
nice.
Not for us, it wouldn't make a difference, honestly, but especially we're talking about like an external, and then whoever would need to kind of update these values.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for sharing that.